Was SpaceX Starlink caught red-handed? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning. Coming to the end of some misty morning, actually. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a technology day. Was SpaceX Starlink caught red-handed by OmniSpace? This is kind of an update to a video that I just did 1 or 2 videos ago about how OmniSpace put in a 43-page filing against SpaceX Starlink, basically claiming with the FCC that they need to shut them down because they are getting some type of harmful RF radio frequency from their satellites. Anyways, we're going to talk about that today. I think it's really amazing that these little companies squeak the loudest, right? And I think that this was interesting because PC Magazine actually got a response from OmniSpace. I want to read to you what they said. What is their point of contention here, right? And I want you to be the judge. What do you think about all this? I'll tell you my thoughts, as I always do, commentary over this video. But then at the end, I want to hear from you down below. What do you think? Is this something that's going to affect Elon Musk, SpaceX, Starlink? Will it not? How will this go forward? So anyways, before I get into this video, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks, check them out. They are free. Go to JCristina.com/books. If you want to say thank you for all of my hard work, that would be awesome. Click on this little button down here, give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, that's perfectly fine. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. And if you enjoy this content, throw it a thumbs up. That's very helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you are, appreciate it. Thank you. Click this little button over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. If you want more content about SpaceX Starlink, I put together about 280, I think, videos now. I'll put a link right over here. Don't click on it yet. After you're done watching this video, click over here. There's a playlist with all of those videos. Helpful how-tos, tips, tricks, what to buy, what not to buy, what to do, what not to do, how to do it, and most importantly, the why behind everything. The why is the most important thing, in my personal opinion. And the why is what this channel is all about. So let's start out with this magazine article, and then we'll get into commentary. And then finally, I want to hear from you down below. It starts out by saying SpaceX is pushing back against accusations that the company's cellular Starlink system for phones could interfere with other satellites. According to SpaceX, rival OmniSpace, I wouldn't even call them a rival, but I guess so. Rival OmniSpace is using rigged testing that fails to provide any evidence of harmful radio interference. It, quote, only proves that SpaceX's direct-to-cell satellites were operating at the time of OmniSpace's test and detectable under the narrow conditions of those tests, not that SpaceX's emission are causing or would cause harmful interference to OmniSpace. This is what SpaceX told the FCC, or the Federal Communications Commission, on Thursday, basically in reply to OmniSpace's 43-page filing. Unbelievable. The company sent the letter to the FCC after OmniSpace claimed that it had uncovered, quote, empirical evidence demonstrating the interference risks from SpaceX's ongoing tests with its growing fleet of direct-to-cell Starlink satellites. If you don't know, direct-to-cell is DTC, DTC is direct-to-cell. It's basically having a cell tower in space, a cell tower on one of these SpaceX Starlink satellites. Currently, there's 38 of them on orbit, and there's going to be more in the near future. The article continues. As a result, OmniSpace is urging the U.S. regulators to force SpaceX to cease such tests. Cease and desist. You're caught red-handed. We have evidence, empirical evidence. In a 43-page filing with the FCC, OmniSpace explains it detected the interference in the 1992-1995 megahertz radio band while using a single, quote, medium Earth orbit satellite called OmniF2. But SpaceX claims the whole testing methodology is flawed. Quote, instead, OmniSpace has merely demonstrated its ability to intentionally configure its lone I love that. Alone, because there is only one. MEO, which is a medium Earth orbiting satellite, to detect SpaceX's direct-to-cell emissions, the company told the FCC on Thursday, later adding, quote, OmniSpace does not claim or provide evidence to suggest that SpaceX's tests have harmfully interfered with any OmniSpace service. They don't have any service. Like SpaceX, OmniSpace is also working to bring satellite connectivity to phones, but the company is still waiting to launch its fleet of satellites and remains years away from providing commercial service. In addition, SpaceX claims OmniSpace has so far declined to coordinate satellite activities. Quote, unfortunately, OmniSpace has never explained why it believes it is exempt from requirements to share information through coordination, choosing instead to refuse or ignore each of SpaceX's requests to coordinate. This is what SpaceX told the FCC. However, OmniSpace told PC Magazine that its findings should alarm the FCC since SpaceX is proposing operating thousands of direct-to-cell or DTC satellites in the up-and-coming years. Quote, OmniSpace's tests were conducted with our F2 satellite in a normal global operating configuration. The interference we measured came from a single SpaceX Starlink satellite operating a single beam to a single test location, the company argued. Considering that a fully deployed SpaceX constellation will consist of hundreds or even thousands of satellites, the potential for future interference would be exponential or exponentially greater. That is true, if there was interference. I'll get to that in just a second. Quote, if Starlink were to choose another band, we would have no complaints. We support SCS or supplemental coverage from space as long as the frequency selection does not result in interference to other SCS or MSS authorizations. This is what OmniSpace argues. SpaceX is operating on a cause no interference basis and as such is responsible to protect the operations of existing and future legally operating satellite systems across the globe. That all sounds good, right? The FCC has so far declined to comment on the matter. In the meantime, SpaceX is aiming to launch the cellular Starlink service for T-Mobile customers later this year with the goal of connecting users in remote areas. Now, OmniSpace put up this image, and this image shows this interference that happened. But what is really interesting here, let's look at this. It says signals measured by F2 or the OmniSpace satellite from SpaceX Starlink DTC operation over the US. January 7th is when this occurred at right past midnight. About 27 minutes after midnight, and that went on for 5 minutes till 32 minutes after midnight. That's really interesting, right? Yeah. The reason why there's a 5-minute window, people, is because they have one satellite that's whipping around the planet. Starlink has a ton of satellites. Actually, they have 38 when it comes to the DTC satellites, the ones that actually have those cell towers built into them, or the E-Node Bs. So it doesn't happen very often. So they had to wait to the specific moment that 5-minute window when they intersected, right? And then at that time, they said, listen, we're getting this little interference here. What SpaceX is saying is that interference was actually, yes, our communication, but they dialed into our frequency. They dialed into our radio station. Let me use a radio station as an analogy, because I think this is really important to get a visual of what's going on here. Because I find there's two problems with what OmniSpace is doing here. Number one is the radio analogy that I'm going to give you now. So let's say if you are driving in your car and you're tuned into a station that is 100.1 and you're listening to 100.1. Well, that's great. If you tune into 100.1, you're going to get 100.1, just like they did. They tuned into the exact frequency of SpaceX Starlink's DTC service and they got service. Of course, they got signal. Fantastic. Well, if you were to listen to 100.1 and now all of a sudden you were listening to music on there and you start hearing talk radio on 100.5, now we have a problem. We have cross-talking going on. Now, if they would have demonstrated something like that they were linked into their signal and all of a sudden SpaceX's signal was now somehow adversely affecting theirs, then they have something to go by. Then I would say yes, it is empirical data showing that there is a problem. There is cross-talking going on. SpaceX caught red-handed, right? But that's not what happened. They dialed in specifically to that station and they heard the radio. Of course they did. Number 2, SpaceX has asked repeatedly these people to provide some type of coordination with them, some type of data so that they can fix the problem that they claim to have. But OmniSpace says, no, we are not obligated by law to tell you anything. We're only obligated to file this 43-page filing with the FCC to shut you down. That's what we're obligated to do. So it's very disingenuous, to say the least. And I feel like this is a company that's not going to be around long, and I feel like they are being manipulated by a larger organization. This is my speculation here, right? This is where we go into the woods a little bit with this channel. I feel like this is a expendable company. I feel like a larger organization or a multitude of organizations are using this company almost as like a petri dish, sending them a ton of money to be able to file these eventual lawsuits and these filings with the FCC and so on and so forth. I don't think OmniSpace is going to be doing anything with this. Like they said, they have one satellite on orbit, one. And they won't have more for up to 1-2 years from now. All right? They don't even expect to be able to provide service for a long time. They are supposedly doing this for them, but the greater good. Something is fishy here, guys. Something is fishy. When you hear this kind of stuff, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's why I think that we need to look a little bit deeper on who is funding OmniSpace. And if any of you guys can dig in a little bit for me, please send me over an email. I would love to hear about it because I really do feel something is just up here. It doesn't make sense. It just simply doesn't. Anyways, I want to know what your thoughts about this. What do you think? Is it going to hold water? Is the FCC going to be like, oh yeah, you guys, SpaceX, Starlink, you're going to need to stop with all that DTC stuff. You're interfering. And here we see this empirical data that you are interfering. Or is the FCC just going to be like, you know what, just stop already. Just stop. The data doesn't hold water, number one. Number two, you are not helping yourself. You're not helping them to help you, even though they asked. Just stop. Anyways, what do you think? Down below. Let's have this conversation. And finally, if you enjoyed this content, throw it a thumbs up and head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the many years, and all of my merch and teas and my book back here and shirts and teacups and all kinds of other stuff that I've put together for you guys. Check them out. If there's something that you like, pick it up. Support me and my family. That would be awesome. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.